Black former cop saves a woman's life. What happens next changes his forever. In the quiet, forgotten corners of Louisiana, where the air is thick with the scent of salt water and the hum of cicadas fills the night, a man once known as one of New Orleans' finest detectives now spends his days casting nets into murky waters. Isaac Carter wasn't always this way. Once sharp, relentless, and incorruptible, he had been a beacon of hope in a system riddled with cracks. But that was before they took everything from him. His badge, his family, his dignity, framed for corruption by those he trusted most. Isaac became just another name, lost to whispers and shame. Now, years later, living in exile among weathered docks and worn-out fishing boats, he has accepted his fate, or so it seems, until the night everything changes. It begins with a scream, a raw, panicked cry cutting through the stillness of the bayou like a blade. Isaac jolts awake, heart hammering against his ribs. The sound is close, too close, coming from the very docks where he ties his boat each evening. He doesn't think, he moves. Years of instinct kick in as he throws open his cabin door and steps into the cold embrace of the moonlit night. What he finds there will not only pull him back into a world he thought he'd left behind, but also reignite a fire within him that years of silence could never extinguish. A woman lies crumpled on the wooden planks, clutching her side, blood seeping through her fingers. And then, without warning, she's gone, dragged over the edge of the dock, swallowed by the dark water below. For a moment, time freezes. Then Isaac dives in after her. The woman survives, thanks to Isaac's quick thinking and sheer force of will. Her name is Lena, and at first glance, she appears to be nothing more than an outsider passing through town. But there's something about her, the guarded tension in her shoulders, the expensive yet practical clothes, the sleek black laptop she carries everywhere. That tells Isaac she isn't here by accident. As fate would have it, their paths crossing isn't coincidence either. When Lena finally catches her breath and looks up at the man who saved her life, she says something that sends a chill down his spine. "I know who you are." Those 5 words hang in the air between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. It's clear Lena knows more than she should about Isaac's past. And what she reveals next sets off a chain reaction neither of them can stop. Lena isn't just any stranger. She's a criminal defense attorney from Atlanta, driven by a fierce determination to expose the injustices buried deep within the justice system. More importantly, she's the daughter of Michael Matthews, one of the most powerful federal prosecutors in the country. Yet despite her privileged background, Lena has spent years defending people the system tried to bury, people like Isaac. As she explains why she's really in town, pieces of a puzzle start falling into place. Someone wanted Lena silenced, and whoever it is has ties to the same conspiracy that ruined Isaac's life. Suddenly, the case that once seemed closed reopens, pulling Isaac back into a fight he thought he'd lost forever. This time, though, he's not alone. What follows is a journey that takes Isaac and Lena deep into the shadows of corruption and betrayal. They uncover evidence hidden for years, including grainy surveillance footage showing a man in a police uniform planting money in Isaac's car. That man, Captain Greg Lawson, Isaac's former superior, the same man who stood before the department and called him a disgrace. With every revelation, the stakes grow higher, forcing Isaac to confront not only the system that betrayed him, but also the question of whether redemption is even possible. Lena becomes more than just an ally. She becomes a mirror reflecting the parts of himself Isaac has tried to bury, Together, they form an unlikely partnership, united by a shared belief that justice must be fought for, even when the odds feel insurmountable. But the deeper they dig, the more dangerous things become. Powerful men don't take kindly to having their secrets exposed, and Isaac and Lena quickly find themselves targeted by forces far beyond their control. Threats escalate, trust is tested, and the line between right and wrong blurs as they navigate a web of lies designed to protect those in power. Along the way, we see glimpses of the man Isaac used to be, the detective who risked everything to bring criminals to justice, and the man he might still become. We also witness Lena's unwavering resolve, fueled by a personal connection to the failures of the justice system that runs deeper than she initially let on. Their bond grows stronger with each obstacle they face, but so does the danger lurking around every corner. As the investigation reaches its climax, Isaac is faced with a choice: walk away and reclaim the quiet, isolated life he's built for himself, or step back into the fray and risk losing everything all over again. The truth is finally within reach, but exposing it comes at a cost. And while Lena believes wholeheartedly in the cause they're fighting for, Isaac wrestles with doubts that haunt him late at night. Can the system ever truly be fixed? Or is it doomed to repeat the same cycles of oppression and injustice? Is redemption something he deserves? Or is it just another illusion? The story builds toward a pivotal moment, a confrontation that will change both Isaac and Lena's lives forever. As they piece together the final clues, the tension becomes almost unbearable. Every decision matters, every move counts, and the clock is ticking. Yet just as answers begin to surface, the narrative takes an unexpected turn, leaving viewers hanging on the edge of their seats. Who can they really trust? Will the truth set Isaac free, or will it destroy him? And what role does Lena play in all of this? Not just as an attorney seeking justice, but as someone carrying her own scars from battles fought long before she met Isaac. By the end of this introduction, the stage is set for a gripping tale of resilience, redemption, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Themes of systemic corruption, personal sacrifice, and the power of human connection weave throughout the story, drawing viewers deeper into Isaac and Lena's world. Through their eyes, we see not only the flaws in the system, but also the potential for change, if only someone is brave enough to fight for it. The unresolved tension leaves audiences eager to learn what happens next, setting the tone for a series that promises to challenge perceptions and spark meaningful conversations about fairness, accountability, and hope. Stay tuned, because this is just the beginning. As the investigation deepened, Isaac found himself pulled back into a world he thought he'd escaped. The more Lena dug into his past case, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about him. It was bigger than anyone had imagined. Lawson wasn't working alone. There was an entire network of corruption within the police department, one that stretched far beyond what either of them could have anticipated. Names began surfacing, officers who had been complicit in falsifying evidence, others who turned a blind eye for promotions or favors. It felt like peeling back layers of rot, each revelation uglier than the last. For Isaac, every new piece of information brought both clarity and pain. He saw faces he once trusted, now smeared with guilt. People who had shaken his hand while silently condemning him to ruin. Lena, too, was wrestling with her own demons. As they worked late into the night, poring over documents and chasing leads, she shared fragments of her story. Her father, Michael Matthews, might have been a titan in the legal system, but their relationship was strained at best. Growing up, Lena watched how the justice system chewed people up and spit them out, often without regard for truth or fairness. She chose criminal defense, not because she wanted to defy her father, but because she believed in giving a voice to those who had none. Yet, even with all her resolve, she carried scars from battles, fought long before she met Isaac. Together, they were two broken pieces, trying to hold each other together as they navigated a minefield of lies. The deeper they went, the more dangerous things became. Threats started arriving, anonymous notes left on Isaac's boat, menacing calls to Lena's burner phone. Someone was watching them, tracking their every move. One evening, as they sat in Isaac's cabin, reviewing surveillance footage, a loud crash outside sent them scrambling. A brick sailed through the window, shattering glass across the floor. Attached to it was a single sheet of paper. "Stop digging." Isaac clenched his fists, rage bubbling beneath the surface. But Lena grabbed his arm, her grip firm. "We can't stop now," she said, her voice steady, despite the fear flickering in her eyes. That moment solidified something between them. Silent agreement that no matter the cost, they would see this through. Their search led them to unexpected places. Old informants from Isaac's days as a detective resurfaced, some willing to help, others too terrified to speak. One name kept coming up: Victor Kane, a shadowy figure tied to the drug cartel Isaac had helped dismantle years ago. According to whispers, Kane hadn't disappeared after the bust. Instead, he'd gone underground, operating under the protection of powerful allies within the force. Could Kane have orchestrated Isaac's downfall? Was he still pulling strings behind the scenes? These questions gnawed at Isaac, driving him to push harder, faster, even when exhaustion threatened to consume him. Meanwhile, subplots began unfolding around them. In town, rumors swirled about the mysterious woman staying with Isaac. Some locals admired her determination, seeing her as a beacon of hope in a place where justice rarely prevailed. Others whispered warnings, cautioning Isaac against getting involved with someone so clearly connected to the very system that had betrayed him. Then there was Lena herself, whose presence stirred emotions Isaac hadn't felt in years. Friendship, trust, something more. He didn't know, and he didn't let himself dwell on it. Not when everything else hung in the balance. Tension reached a fever pitch when Lena uncovered a critical lead: a retired officer living in seclusion, rumored to possess evidence implicating Lawson and his associates. The man, Thomas Reed, had vanished shortly after the scandal broke, citing health issues as his reason for leaving the force. But Lena suspected otherwise. Tracking him down took days, leading them to a remote cabin deep in the woods. When they finally confronted Reed, the frail man hesitated, visibly torn between fear and duty. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he warned, his hands trembling as he clutched a worn envelope. Inside were photographs, documents, and handwritten notes detailing the conspiracy, from bribes to planted evidence to deliberate sabotage of Isaac's career. It was enough to bring Lawson down, but also enough to get them killed. With the evidence secured, Isaac and Lena knew they couldn't delay any longer. They reached out to Michael Matthews, hoping his influence could shield them from retaliation. Even then, trust was fragile. Isaac despised asking for help from the same kind of power structure that had ruined him, but he recognized necessity when he saw it. To his surprise, Matthews agreed to intervene, not out of familial obligation to Lena, but because the scale of corruption disgusted even him. Still, Isaac couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing with fire, relying on systems inherently designed to protect themselves. As the day of Lawson's arrest approached, Isaac wrestled with conflicting emotions. On one hand, vindication loomed closer than ever before. On the other, he couldn't ignore the growing realization that exposing Lawson wouldn't magically fix everything. Justice wasn't a switch you flipped. It was a constant battle, requiring vigilance and sacrifice. And what about Lena? What would happen to their partnership once this chapter closed? Would she return to Atlanta, leaving him alone again in his quiet corner of Louisiana? The climax arrived abruptly, shattering the fragile calm they had managed to maintain. Late one night, as they prepared to hand over the evidence to federal agents, armed men ambushed them near the docks. Gunfire erupted, echoing across the water, as Isaac and Lena scrambled for cover. Betrayal cut deeper than bullets. It turned out someone close to them had leaked their plans. Cornered and outnumbered, Isaac faced a choice: surrender and risk losing everything, or fight back and potentially ignite a war neither of them was ready for. Lena's voice cut through the chaos, urging him to stay focused. "This isn't just about you anymore," she shouted over the din. "It's about everyone who deserves a chance to fight." In that moment, Isaac realized the true weight of what they were doing. This wasn't just about clearing his name or taking down Lawson. It was about proving that change was possible, even in a system rigged against it. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, he made a decision that would alter the course of their lives forever. The ambush at the docks wasn't just an attack, it was a message. Isaac realized that as he stared down the barrels of the guns pointed at him and Lena, whoever wanted them silenced wasn't playing games anymore. The betrayal cut deeper when Isaac recognized one of the men holding them at gunpoint, Detective Russo, a name he hadn't heard in years, but one that now burned in his mind. Russo had been part of internal affairs during Isaac's trial, one of the officers who had testified against him. Seeing him now, standing there with cold indifference, confirmed everything Isaac had suspected. This conspiracy went higher than Lawson, higher than anyone had dared to imagine. Lena stood beside Isaac, her hands raised but her eyes sharp, calculating. She whispered under her breath, "We need to stall." Isaac nodded almost imperceptibly. He knew they couldn't fight there, way out, not with two armed men blocking their escape. But he also knew they couldn't give up. Not now, not when the truth was finally within reach. As Russo stepped forward, his voice dripping with disdain, Isaac felt the weight of every wrong done to him crash over him like a wave. But instead of fear, something else took hold: rage. Pure, unrelenting rage. "You should have stayed quiet, Carter," Russo sneered, gesturing toward Lena. "And you think you can waltz in here and tear apart what we've built? You're both dead ends." Isaac locked eyes with him, his voice steady, despite the chaos swirling inside him. "You think this ends tonight? You think silencing us will make it go away?" Russo hesitated for a fraction of a second, and in that moment, Isaac saw doubt flicker across his face. It was enough. Before Russo could react, Lena lunged sideways, grabbing a piece of broken wood from the dock and swinging it hard. The crack echoed through the night as the makeshift weapon connected with one of the attacker's heads, sending him sprawling. Isaac moved next, tackling Russo to the ground. Years of training kicked in as he disarmed the detective, using his own momentum against him. Shots rang out, splintering the wooden planks around them. But Isaac didn't stop. He couldn't when the dust settled. Russo was unconscious, and the other man lay groaning on the ground, clutching his bleeding head. Lena stood panting, her hands trembling as she dropped the piece of wood. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Isaac turned to her, his voice low and urgent. "We need to get out of here, now." They didn't have time to process what had just happened. They needed to act fast, before reinforcements arrived. Back at Isaac's cabin, they barricaded themselves inside, working quickly to secure the evidence they had gathered. Lena uploaded the files to a secure server, ensuring that even if something happened to them, the truth would still come out. "If we don't make it," she said, her voice breaking slightly, "someone will find this. Someone will finish what we started." Isaac nodded, but he refused to let himself believe failure was an option. He had fought too hard, sacrificed too much, to lose now. As dawn broke, the sound of sirens filled the air. But instead of the corrupt officers they expected, federal agents stormed the scene, led by none other herself, Michael Matthews. Lena's father had arrived just in time, tipped off by Lena's earlier call for help. The sight of Matthews stepping out of the car, flanked by agents, sent a clear message. The game was over. Russo and his accomplice were arrested on the spot, their faces pale with shock. Matthews approached Isaac and Lena, his expression unreadable. "You did good," he said simply, his voice carrying a rare note of respect. "But this isn't the end." In the weeks that followed, the fallout was seismic. The investigation exposed a web of corruption that reached into the highest levels of the police department. Officers resigned or were fired, some facing criminal charges. Lawson, already behind bars, became a symbol of systemic rot, his downfall a testament to the power of perseverance. Isaac's exoneration was complete, but more importantly, so was his vindication. The headlines that once vilified him now celebrated him as a hero, a man who refused to let injustice win. For Lena, the victory was bittersweet. Her relationship with her father remained complicated, but she found solace in knowing they had worked together to bring about change. More importantly, she discovered a renewed sense of purpose. Working alongside Isaac had shown her that justice wasn't just a concept. It was a battle, one worth fighting no matter the odds. Together, they decided to turn their partnership into something permanent. Carter Matthews Investigations was born, dedicated to uncovering the truth for those who had been failed by the system. Their first case came sooner than expected. A man named Marcus Hale, sentenced to life for a murder he swore he didn't commit. The parallels to Isaac's own story weren't lost on either of them. Sitting in their modest office, surrounded by stacks of files and notes scribbled on whiteboards, they dove into the case with relentless determination. And as they worked, Isaac felt something he hadn't in years. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, they could make a difference. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, dangers, and moments of doubt. But as Isaac looked at Lena, her sharp eyes focused on unraveling yet another tangled mess of lies, he knew they were ready. Justice wasn't a word to throw around lightly. It was a promise, one they intended to keep. Their work wasn't just about clearing names or exposing corruption. It was about proving that even in a flawed system, redemption was possible, that even in the darkest corners of humanity, light could still break through. And so, as the sun set over the Louisiana bayou, casting golden hues across the water, Isaac and Lena sat side by side, poring over Marcus Hale's file. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Isaac felt at peace. He had found his purpose again, not just as a man seeking justice for himself, but as someone willing to fight for others. Together, they were more than survivors of injustice. They were warriors, determined to leave the world better than they found it.